The difference between stupidity and genius is that genius has its limits. A society's competitive advantage will come not from how well its schools teach the multiplication and periodic tables, but from how well they stimulate imagination and creativity. The religious geniuses of all ages have been distinguished by this kind of religious feeling, which knows no dogma and no God conceived in man's image, so that there can be no church whose central teachings are based on it. Hence it is precisely among the heretics of every age that we find men who were filled with this highest kind of religious feeling, and were in many cases regarded by their contemporaries as atheists, sometimes also as saints. Looked at in this light, men like Democritus, Francis of Assisi, and Spinoza are closely akin to one another. The word God is for me nothing more than the expression and product of human weaknesses, the Bible a collection of honorable, but still primitive legends which are nevertheless pretty childish. No interpretation, no matter how subtle, can, for me, change this. Not until the creation and maintenance of decent conditions of life for all people are recognized and accepted as a common obligation of all people and all countries. Not until then shall we, with a certain degree of justification, be able to speak of humankind as civilized. The release of atomic energy has not created a new problem. It has merely made more urgent the necessity of solving an existing one. Possessions, outward success, publicity, luxury, to me these have always been contemptible. I believe that a simple and unassuming manner of life is best for everyone, best for both the body and the mind. Love is a better master than duty. Only a life lived for others is a life worthwhile. Confusion of goals and perfection of means seems, in my opinion, to characterize our age. If you want to live a happy life, tie it to a goal, not to people or things. How can cosmic religious feeling be communicated from one person to another, if it can give rise to no definite notion of a God and no theology? In my view, it is the most important function of art and science to awaken this feeling and keep it alive in those who are receptive to it. The framing of a problem is often far more essential than its solution. Science is the attempt to make the chaotic diversity of our sense experience correspond to a logically uniform system of thought. Nothing is more destructive of respect for the government and the law of the land than passing laws which cannot be enforced. Since the mathematicians have invaded the theory of relativity, I do not understand it myself anymore. Gandhi, the greatest political genius of our time, has pointed the way. He was shown of what sacrifices people are capable once they have found the right way. His work for the liberation of India is a living testimony to the fact that a will governed by firm conviction is stronger than a seemingly invincible material power. Student is not a container you have to fill, but a torch you have to light up. People living in different places invent different words for things, and then the words control how they think. The Maasai people, for instance, do not have a word that means the future. Therefore, when they talk of time, they always talk about the present time. Hope, for example, lives in the future. The things one hopes for are always things in the future. So the Maasai people may never have felt hope, since they have no idea of a future. But if the Maasai live without hope, they also live without fear. For fear is always about the future too, per Winteller. I do not believe that civilization will be wiped out in a war fought with the atomic bomb. Perhaps 2/3 of the people of the earth will be killed. Play is the highest form of research. Nationalism is an infantile disease. It is the measles of mankind. In scientific thinking are always present elements of poetry. Science and music requires a thought homogeneous. Combinatory play seems to be the essential feature in productive thought. I am not a genius, I am just curious. I ask many questions, and when the answer is simple, then God is answering. Black holes are where God divided by zero. Although I am a typical loner in my daily life, my awareness of belonging to the invisible community of those who strive for truth, beauty, and justice has prevented me from feelings of isolation. If there is any religion that could respond to the needs of modern science, it would be Buddhism. True religion is real living, living with all one's soul, with all one's goodness and righteousness. If I were not a physicist, I would probably be a musician. I often think in music. I live my daydreams in music. I see my life in terms of music. Knowledge of what is does not open the door directly to what should be. The real purpose of socialism is precisely to overcome and advance beyond the predatory phase of human development. In the view of such harmony in the cosmos which I, with my limited human mind, am able to recognize, there are yet people who says there is no God. But what makes me really angry is that they quote me for support of such views. The expanded quotable Einstein, Princeton University, page 214. All that is valuable in human society depends upon the opportunity for development accorded the individual. The principal art of the teacher is to awaken the joy in creation and knowledge. Fantasie ist wichtiger als Wissen, denn Wissen ist begrenzt. It is the theory that decides what can be observed. Anyone who has never made a mistake has never tried anything new. Nothing truly valuable can be achieved except by the unselfish cooperation of many individuals. The revolution introduced me to art, and in turn, art introduced me to the revolution. No, this trick won't work. How on earth are you ever going to explain in terms of chemistry and physics so important a biological phenomenon as first love? Strange is our situation here on Earth. Each of us comes for a short visit, not knowing why, yet sometimes seeming to divine a purpose. From the standpoint of daily life, however, there is one thing we do know. That man is here for the sake of other men, above all for those upon whose smiles and well-being our own happiness depends. I cannot imagine a God who rewards and punishes the objects of his creation and is but a reflection of human frailty. Curiosity is more important than knowledge. I never teach my pupils. I only attempt to provide the conditions in which they can learn. Coincidence is God's way of staying anonymous. Whoever is careless with the truth in small matters cannot be trusted with important matters. Our task must be to free ourselves by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature and its beauty. God is clever but not dishonest. I received your letter of June 10th. I have never talked to a Jesuit priest in my life, and I am astonished by the audacity to tell such lies about me. From the viewpoint of a Jesuit priest, I am, of course, and have always been an atheist. We experience ourselves, our thoughts and feelings, as something separate from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us. I believe that a simple and unassuming manner of life is best for everyone, best both for the body and the mind. That deep emotional conviction of the presence of a superior reasoning power, which is revealed in the incomprehensible universe, forms my idea of God. I shall never believe that God plays dice with the world. The prestige of government has undoubtedly been lowered considerably by the Prohibition Law. For nothing is more destructive of respect for the government and the law of the land than passing laws which cannot be enforced. I live in that solitude which is painful in youth, but delicious in the years of maturity. We cannot despair of humanity, since we ourselves are human beings. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Great spirits have always found violent opposition for mediocrities. The latter cannot understand it when a man does not thoughtlessly submit to hereditary prejudices, but honestly and courageously uses his intelligence. Nationalism is an infantile disease. It is the measles of mankind. The human spirit must prevail over technology. Morality is of the highest importance, but for us, not for God. Success equals 1 part work, plus 1 part play, plus 1 part keep your mouth shut. All of us who are concerned for peace and triumph of reason and justice must be keenly aware how small an influence reason and honest good will exert upon events in the political field. True art is characterized by an irresistible urge in the creative artist. As far as the laws of mathematics refer to reality, they are not certain, and as far as they are certain, they do not refer to reality. If tomorrow were never to come, it would not be worth living today. The hardest thing in the world to understand is the income tax. Gravitation cannot be held responsible for people falling in love. I never think of the future. It comes soon enough. It is this mythical, or rather symbolic, content of the religious traditions which is likely to come into conflict with science. This occurs whenever this religious stock of ideas contains dogmatically fixed statements on subjects which belong in the domain of science. Everything must be made as simple as possible, but not simpler. The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the source of all true art and science. He to whom the emotion is a stranger, who can no longer pause to wonder and stand wrapped in awe, is as good as dead. His eyes are closed. The insight into the mystery of life, coupled though it be with fear, has also given rise to religion. To know what is impenetrable to us really exists, manifesting itself as the highest wisdom and the most radiant beauty, which our dull faculties can comprehend only in their most primitive forms. This knowledge, this feeling, is at the center of true religiousness. I know not with what weapons World War III will be fought, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. Humor, motivations, moral, gods, energy, secrecy. Only one who devotes himself to a cause with his whole strength and soul can be a true master. For this reason, mastery demands all of a person. The state exists for man, not man for the state. The same may be said options. These are old phrases, coined by people who saw in human individuality the highest human value. I would hesitate to repeat them, were it not for the ever-recurring danger that they may be forgotten, especially in these days of organization and stereotypes. I never think of the future. It comes soon enough. Those whose acquaintance with scientific research is derived chiefly from its practical results easily develop a completely false notion of the mentality of the men who, surrounded by a skeptical world, have shown the way to kindred spirits scattered wide through the world and through the centuries. Only one who has devoted his life to similar ends can have a vivid realization of what has inspired these men and given them the strength to remain true to their purpose in spite of countless failures. It is cosmic religious feeling that gives a man such strength. A contemporary has said, not unjustly, that in this materialistic age of ours, the serious scientific workers are the only profoundly religious people. That which is impenetrable to us really exists. Behind the secrets of nature remains something subtle, intangible, and inexplicable. Veneration for this force beyond anything that we can comprehend is my religion. There comes a time when the mind takes a higher plane of knowledge, but can never prove how it got there. E equals mc squared. Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. Reading, after a certain age, diverts the mind too much from its creative pursuits. Any man who reads too much and uses his own brain too little falls into lazy habits of thinking. As our circle of knowledge expands, so does the circumference of darkness surrounding it. I prefer to make up my own quotes and attribute them to very smart people, so that I can use them to win arguments. When you trip over love, it is easy to get up. But when you fall in love, it is impossible to stand again. If you've never done anything wrong, it's probably because you have never tried anything new. If one tries to navigate unknown waters, one runs the risk of shipwreck. When you sit with a nice girl for 2 hours, you think it's only a minute. But when you sit on a hot stove for a minute, you think it's 2 hours. That's relativity. Man is here for the sake of other men, above all for those upon whose smiles and well-being our own happiness depends. I believe in intuitions and inspirations. I sometimes feel that I am right. I do not know that I am. Anger dwells only in the bosom of fools. Intelligent life on other planets? I'm not even sure there is on Earth. Is a scale of proportions which makes the bad difficult and the good easy. Creativity is contagious. Pass it on. It was, of course, a lie what you read about my religious convictions, a lie which is being systematically repeated. I do not believe in a personal God, and I have never denied this, but have expressed it clearly. If something is in me which can be called religious, then it is the unbounded admiration for the structure of the world, so far as our science can reveal it. I am enough of an artist to draw freely upon my imagination. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited. Imagination encircles the world. Before God, we are all equally wise and equally foolish. Imagination is everything. It is the preview of life's coming attractions. Coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous. Wisdom is not a product of schooling, but of the lifelong attempt to acquire it. Most people say that it is the intellect which makes a great scientist. They are wrong. It is character. There is no substitute for hard work. The unleashed power of the atom has changed everything save our modes of thinking, and we thus drift toward unparalleled catastrophe. I maintain that the cosmic religious feeling is the strongest and noblest motive for scientific research. No amount of experimentation can ever prove me right. A single experiment can prove me wrong. You never fail until you stop trying. Learn from yesterday, live for today, hope for tomorrow. The important thing is not to stop questioning. No amount of experimentation can ever prove me right. A single experiment can prove me wrong. The laws of gravity cannot be held responsible for people falling in love. When you are courting a nice girl, an hour seems like a second. When you sit on a red-hot cinder, a second seems like an hour. That's relativity. The most aggravating thing about the younger generation is that I no longer belong to it. Science without religion is lame. Religion without science is blind. The significant problems we have cannot be solved at the same level of thinking with which we created them. I think and think for months, for years. 99 times the conclusion is false. The 100th time I am right. The only thing that you absolutely have to know is the location of the library. For us, physicists believe the separation between past, present, and future is only an illusion, although a convincing one. Imagination is the highest form of research. Peace is not merely the absence of war, but the presence of justice, of law, of order, in short, of government. Memory is deceptive because it is colored by today's events. God does not play dice with the universe. The monotony and solitude of a quiet life stimulates the creative mind. Occurrences in this domain are beyond the reach of exact prediction because of the variety of factors in operation, not because of any lack of order in nature. Look deep into nature, and then you will understand everything better. Stay away from negative people. They have a problem for every solution. Life without playing music is inconceivable for me. I live my daydreams in music. I see my life in terms of music. I get most joy in life out of music. I do not believe in the immortality of the individual, and I consider ethics to be an exclusively human concern without any superhuman authority behind it. Something deeply hidden had to be behind things. A table, a chair, a bowl of fruit, and a violin. What else does a man need to be happy? No amount of experimentation can ever prove me right. A single experiment can prove me wrong. All religions, arts, and sciences are branches of the same tree. All these aspirations are directed toward ennobling man's life, lifting it from the sphere of mere physical existence and leading the individual towards FRE. The world is a dangerous place, not because of those who do evil, but because of those who look on and do nothing. Only a life lived for others is a life worthwhile. It is a very grave mistake to think that the enjoyment of seeing and searching can be promoted by means of coercion and a sense of duty. To the contrary, I believe it would be possible to rob even a healthy beast of prey of its voraciousness, if it were possible, with the aid of a whip, to force the beast to devour continuously, even when not hungry. Adversity introduces a man to himself. In our national parlance, what's usually meant by the word maverick is someone who skirts the edge of sanity or is so insane as to appear sane, who then does something absolutely insane and yet, after the passage of time, and especially if the maverick's creation yields a profit of any kind, is deemed less and less insane until the maverick worms his or her way into the fibers of history. Then generations grow to envy the ingenuity and courage of the maverick while glossing over the maverick's genetic kookiness. On such shoulders, a country rises. Once you can accept the universe as matter expanding into nothing that is something, wearing stripes with plaid comes easy. My religiosity consists of a humble admiration of the infinitely superior spirit who reveals himself in the slight details we are able to perceive with our frail and feeble minds. That deeply emotional conviction of the presence of a superior reasoning power, which is revealed in the incomprehensible universe, forms my idea of God. If I can't picture it, I can't understand it. If you want your children to be intelligent, read them fairy tales. If you want them to be more intelligent, read them more fairy tales. I have little patience with scientists who take a board of wood, look for its thinnest part, and drill a great number of holes where drilling is easy. If you are out to describe the truth, leave elegance to the tailor. I think and think for months and years. 99 times the conclusion is false. The 100th time I am right. It is the theory which decided what can be observed. The fear of death is the most unjustified of all fears, for there's no risk of accident for someone who's dead. It is a miracle that curiosity survives formal education. I was very pleased with your kind letter. Until now I never dreamed of being something like a hero, but since you've given me the nomination I feel that I am one. The only thing that you absolutely have to know is the location of the library. I cannot imagine a God who rewards and punishes the objects of his creation, whose purposes are modeled after our own, a God, in short, who is but a reflection of human frailty. Neither can I believe that the individual survives the death of his body, although feeble souls harbor such thoughts through fear or ridiculous egotisms. I am thankful for all of those who said an "oh" to me. It's because of them I'm doing it myself. But science can only be created by those who are thoroughly imbued with the aspiration toward truth and understanding. This source of feeling, however, springs from the sphere of religion. To this there also belongs the faith in the possibility that the regulations valid for the world of existence are rational, that is, comprehensible to reason. I cannot conceive of a genuine scientist without that profound faith. The situation may be expressed by an image. Science without religion is lame. Religion without science is blind. The world won't be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them without doing anything. Try not to become a man of success, but rather a man of value. Few people are capable of expressing with equanimity opinions which differ from the prejudices of their social environment. Most people are incapable of forming such opinions. 1953. One had to cram all this stuff into one's mind for the examinations, whether one liked it or not. This coercion had such a deterring effect on me that, after I had passed the final examination, I found the consideration of any scientific problems distasteful to me for an entire year. We owe a lot to the Indians, who taught us how to count, without which no worthwhile scientific discovery could have been made. Bureaucracy is the death of all sound work. It has become appallingly obvious that our technology has exceeded our humanity. I believe that a simple and unassuming manner of life is best for everyone, best both for the body and the mind. Racism is a disease of white people. In Einstein's equation, time is a river. It speeds up, meanders, and slows down. The new wrinkle is it can have whirlpools and fork into two rivers. So, if the river of time can be bent into a pretzel, create whirlpools and fork into two rivers, then time travel cannot be ruled out. I think and think for months and years. 99 times, the conclusion is false. The 100th time I am right. If my theory of relativity is proven successful, Germany will claim me as a German and France will declare that I am a citizen of the world. Should my theory prove untrue, France will say that I am a German and Germany will declare that I am a Jew. I am enough of an artist to draw freely upon my imagination. I would not think that philosophy and reason themselves will be man's guide in the foreseeable future. However, they will remain the most beautiful sanctuary they have always been for the select few. Common sense is the collection of prejudices acquired by age 18. It stands to the everlasting credit of science that by acting on the human mind, it has overcome man's insecurity before himself and before nature. Let every man be respected as an individual and no man idolized. Anyone who doesn't take truth seriously in small matters cannot be trusted in large ones either. The single most important decision any of us will ever make is whether or not to believe the universe is friendly. For an idea that does not first seem insane, there is no hope. Any fool can know. The point is to understand. I am not only a pacifist but a militant pacifist. I am willing to fight for peace. Nothing will end war unless the people themselves refuse to go to war. However rare true love may be, it is less so than true friendship. I never think of the future. It comes soon enough. Through the reading of popular scientific books, I soon reached the conviction that much in the stories of the Bible could not be true. The consequence was a positively fanatic orgy of free thinking coupled with the impression that youth is intentionally being deceived by the state through lies. It was a crushing impression. Mistrust of every kind of authority grew out of this experience, a skeptical attitude toward the convictions that were alive in any specific social environment. An attitude that has never again left me. Albert Einstein, Autobiographical Notes, edited by Paul Arthur Schilp. The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the source of all true art and science. The strength of the Constitution lies entirely in the determination of each citizen to defend it. Only if every single citizen feels duty-bound to do his share in this defense are the constitutional rights secure. Politics is for the present, but an equation is for eternity. God is subtle, but he is not malicious. If it isn't urgent, worry about it later. Education is not the learning of facts, but the training of the mind to think. Try and penetrate with our limited means the secrets of nature, and you will find that, behind all the discernible laws and connections, there remains something subtle, intangible, and inexplicable. Veneration for this force beyond anything that we can comprehend is my religion. To that extent I am, in fact, religious. The whole of science is nothing more than a refinement of everyday thinking. Without deep reflection, one knows from daily life that one exists for other people. Science is a wonderful thing if one does not have to earn one's living at it. It occurred to me by intuition, and music was the driving force behind that intuition. My discovery was the result of musical perception. No, this trick won't work. How on earth are you ever going to explain, in terms of chemistry and physics, so important a biological phenomenon as first love? I am a deeply religious non-believer. This is a somewhat new kind of religion. The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the source of all true art and all science. He to whom this emotion is a stranger, who can no longer pause to wonder and stand wrapped in awe, is as good as dead. His eyes are closed. Most of the fundamental ideas of science are essentially simple and may, as a rule, be expressed in a language comprehensible to everyone. Strive not to be a success, but rather to be of value. . Our task must be to free ourselves by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature and its beauty. Only two things are infinite, the universe and human stupidity, and I'm not sure about the former. If you wish to learn from the theoretical physicist anything about the methods which he uses, I would give you the following piece of advice. Don't listen to his words, examine his achievements. For to the discoverer in that field, the constructions of his imagination appear so necessary and so natural that he is apt to treat them not as the creations of his thoughts, but as given realities. At first, you fall in love. You wake in the morning woozy, and your twilight is lit with astral violet light. You spelunk down into each other until you come to possess some inner vision of each other that becomes one thing. Us. Together. And time passes. Like the forming of Earth itself, volcanoes rise and spew lava. Oceans appear. Rock plates shift. Sea turtles swim half the ocean to lay eggs on the mother island. Songbirds migrate over continents for berries from a tree. You evolve cosmically and geologically. You lose each other and find each other again, every day, until love gathers the turtles and the birds of your world and encompasses them, too. The world is a dangerous place to live, not because of the people who are evil, but because of the people who don't do anything about it. I can't believe that God plays dice with the universe. The important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existing. You can't blame gravity for falling in love. Education is what remains after one has forgotten what one has learned in school. One must divide one's time between politics and equations. But our equations are much more important to me because politics is for the present, while our equations are for eternity. All of science is nothing more than the refinement of everyday thinking. The important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existence. One cannot help but be in awe when he contemplates the mysteries of eternity, of life, of the marvelous structure of reality. It is enough if one tries merely to comprehend a little of this mystery as reading after a certain time diverts the mind too much from its creative pursuits. Any man who reads too much and uses his own brain too little falls into lazy habits of thinking. I love humanity, but I hate humans. A man's value to the community depends primarily on how far his feelings, thoughts, and actions are directed towards promoting the good of his fellows. Great spirits have always encountered violent opposition from mediocre minds. If we knew what it was we were doing, it would not be called research, would it? In matters of truth and justice, there is no difference between large and small problems, for issues concerning the treatment of people are all the same. If my theory of relativity is proven successful, Germany will claim me as a German and France will declare me a citizen of the world. Should my theory prove untrue, France will say that I am a German and Germany will declare that I am a Jew. We cannot solve our problems with the same level of thinking that created them. The question that sometimes drives me hazy, am I or the others crazy? The devil has put a penalty on all things we enjoy in life. Either we suffer in health, or we suffer in soul, or we get fat. It was the experience of mystery, even if mixed with fear, that engendered religion. The most incomprehensible thing about the world is that it is at all comprehensible. Love is a better teacher than duty. I don't try to imagine a personal God. It suffices to stand in awe at the structure of the world, insofar as it allows our inadequate senses to appreciate it. The hardest thing to understand in the world is the income tax. To raise new questions, new possibilities, to regard old problems from a new angle, requires creative imagination and marks real advance in science. A foolish faith in authority is the worst enemy of truth. The tragedy of life is what dies inside a man while he lives. Life isn't worth living unless it is lived for someone else. I believe in intuition and inspiration. Imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited, whereas imagination embraces the entire world, stimulating progress, giving birth to evolution. It is, strictly speaking, a real factor in scientific research. A question that sometimes drives me hazy. Am I or are the others crazy? It is not that I'm so smart, but I stay with the questions much longer. Ego equals 1/knowledge. More the knowledge, lesser the ego. Lesser the knowledge, more the ego. The most beautiful experience we can have is the mysterious. It is the fundamental emotion which stands at the cradle of true art and true science. Whoever does not know it and can no longer wonder, no longer marvel, is as good as dead and his eyes are dimmed. The world is a dangerous place to live. Not because of the people who are evil, but because of the people who don't do anything about it. I see my life in terms of music. Great spirits have always encountered opposition from mediocre minds. The mediocre mind is incapable of understanding the man who refuses to bow blindly to conventional prejudices and chooses instead to express his opinions courageously and honestly. Force always attracts men of low morality. No one does anything right in life until they realize that they are making a mistake. Only occasionally can you glimpse through the embrasures of an otherwise perfectly polite person to see the cannons aimed out. Only in a certain glint of light do the eye teeth become fangs. We are driven by desire and fear. Only in our solitary hungers do we find ourselves capable of the most magnificently unexpected sins. A true genius admits that she knows nothing. How was I able to live alone before? My little everything. Without you, I lack self-confidence, passion for work, and enjoyment of life. In short, without you, my life is no life. The pursuit of knowledge for its own sake, an almost fanatical love of justice, and the desire for personal independence. These are the features of the Jewish tradition which make me thank my stars that I belong to it. The deep emotional conviction of the presence of a superior reasoning power which is revealed in the incomprehensible universe forms my idea of God. Do not worry about your difficulties in mathematics. I can assure you mine are still greater. One strength of the communist system of the East is that it has some of the character of a religion and inspires the emotions of a religion. Politics is for the moment and equation is for eternity. Mozart's music is so pure and beautiful that I see it as a reflection of the inner beauty of the universe. Whoever undertakes to set himself up as a judge of truth and knowledge is shipwrecked by the laughter of the gods. When the solution is simple, God is answering. You cannot simultaneously prevent and prepare for war. Information is not knowledge. The most beautiful experience we can have is the mysterious. It is the fundamental emotion that stands at the cradle of true art and true science. The mystical trend of our time, which shows itself particularly in the rampant growth of the so-called theosophy and spiritualism, is for me no more than a symptom of weakness and confusion, since our inner experiences consist of reproductions and combinations of sensory impressions. The concept of a soul without a body seemed to me to be empty and devoid of meaning. Albert Einstein, letter of February 5, 1921. When we first got married, we made a pact. It was this. In our life together, it was decided I would make all of the big decisions, and my wife would make all of the little decisions. For 50 years, we have held true to that agreement. I believe that is the reason for the success in our marriage. However, the strange thing is that in 50 years, there hasn't been one big decision. The formulation of the problem is often more essential than its solution, which may be merely a matter of mathematical or experimental skill. This crippling of individuals I consider the worst evil of capitalism. Our whole educational system suffers from this evil. An exaggerated competitive attitude is inculcated into the student, who is trained to worship acquisitive success as a preparation for his future career. I have just got a new theory of eternity. The ideals which have always shone before me and filled me with joy are goodness, beauty, and truth. How do I work? I grope. Never memorize something that you can look up. I have no special talents. I am only passionately curious. The environment is everything that isn't me. Heroism on command, senseless violence, and all the loathsome nonsense that goes by the name of patriotism. How passionately I hate them. You see, wire telegraph is a kind of a very, very long cat. You pull his tail in New York and his head is meowing in Los Angeles. Do you understand this? And radio operates exactly the same way. You send signals here, they receive them there. The only difference is that there is no cat. If people are good only because they fear punishment and hope for reward, then we are a sorry lot indeed. The release of atomic power has changed everything except our way of thinking. The solution to this problem lies in the heart of mankind. If only I had known, I should have become a watchmaker. 1945. If at first the idea is not absurd, then there is no hope for it. A man should look for what is, and not for what he thinks should be. True human progress is based less on the inventive mind than on the conscience of such men as Brandeis, Albert Einstein. The only thing you absolutely have to know is the location of the library. Even on the most solemn occasions, I got away without wearing socks and hid that lack of civilization in high boots. The value of a man should be seen in what he gives and not in what he is able to receive. Gravitation is not responsible for people falling in love. He who joyfully marches to music in rank and file has already earned my contempt. He has been given a large brain by mistake, since for him the spinal cord would suffice. Those who have the privilege to know have the duty to act, and in that action are the seeds of new knowledge. This topic brings me to that worst outcrop of herd life, the military system, which I abhor. This plague spot of civilization ought to be abolished with all possible speed. Heroism on command, senseless violence, and all the loathsome nonsense that goes by the name of patriotism. How passionately I hate them. Honestly, I cannot understand what people mean when they talk about the freedom of the human will. I have a feeling, for instance, that I will something or other. But what relation this has with freedom I cannot understand at all. I feel that I will to light my pipe and I do it. But how can I connect this up with the idea of freedom? What is behind the act of willing to light the pipe? Another act of willing? Schopenhauer once said, Der Mensch kann was er will. Kann aber nicht wollen was er will. Man can do what he will, but he cannot will what he wills. An empty stomach is not a good political advisor. Everything should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler. It would be possible to describe everything scientifically, but it would make no sense. It would be without meaning, as if you described a Beethoven symphony as a variation of wave pressure. Do you really believe that the moon isn't there when nobody looks? Once we accept our limits, we go beyond them. All religions, arts, and sciences are branches of the same tree. All these aspirations are directed toward ennobling man's life, lifting it from the sphere of mere physical existence and leading the individual towards freedom. First published 1937. Is it not better for a man to die for a cause in which he believes, such as peace, than to suffer for a cause in which he does not believe, such as war? Intellectuals solve problems, geniuses prevent them. Common sense is the collection of prejudices acquired by age 18. We know from daily life that we exist for other people first of all, for whose smiles and well-being our own happiness depends. A man's ethical behavior should be based effectually on sympathy, education, and social ties and needs. No religious basis is necessary. Man would be in a poor way if he had to be restrained by fear of punishment and hopes of reward after death. When I was young, I found out that the big toe always ends up making a hole in a sock, so I stopped wearing socks. I speak to everyone in the same way, whether he is the garbage man or the president of the university. The gift of fantasy has meant more to me than my talent for absorbing positive knowledge. The attempt to combine wisdom and power has only rarely been successful, and then only for a short while. When a man sits with a pretty girl for an hour, it seems like a minute. But let him sit on a hot stove for a minute, and it's longer than any hour. That's relativity. I think and think for months, for years. 99 times the conclusion is false. The 100th time I am right. My religion consists of a humble admiration of the illimitable superior spirit who reveals himself in the slight details we are able to perceive with our frail and feeble mind. Maxwell's theory of electromagnetism is generally studied only by advanced students of physics, but Albert had mastered it by the time he was 16 years old. Still, there are moments when one feels free from one's own identification with human limitations and inadequacies. At such moments, one imagines that one stands on some spot of a small planet, gazing in amazement at the cold yet profoundly moving beauty of the eternal, the unfathomable. Life and death flow into one, and there is neither evolution nor destiny, only being. Out of clutter, find simplicity. Try not to become a man of success, but rather try to become a man of value. A successful man is he who receives a great deal from his fellow men, usually incomparably more than corresponds to his service to them. The value of a man, however, should be seen in what he gives and not in what he is able to receive. Only two things are infinite: the universe and human stupidity, and I'm not sure about the former. He who joyfully marches to music rank and file has already earned my contempt. He has been given a large brain by mistake, since for him the spinal cord would surely suffice. This disgrace to civilization should be done away with at once. Heroism at command, senseless brutality, deplorable love of country stance, and all the loathsome nonsense that goes by the name of patriotism. How violently I hate all this. How despicable and ignoble war is. I would rather be torn to shreds than be part of so base an action. It is my conviction that killing under the cloak of war is nothing but an act of murder. It is strange to be known so universally, and yet to be so lonely. From the standpoint of daily life, however, there is one thing we do know: that we are here for the sake of each other, above all for those upon whose smile and well-being our own happiness depends, and also for the countless unknown souls with whose fate we are connected by a bond of sympathy. Many times a day I realize how much my own outer and inner life is built upon the labors of my fellow men, both living and dead, and how earnestly I must exert myself in order to give in return as much as I have received. The owner of the means of production is in a position to purchase the labor power of the worker. By using the means of production, the worker produces new goods which become the property of the capitalist. The essential point about this process is the relation between what the worker produces and what he is paid, both measured in terms of real value. Insofar as the labor contract is free, what the worker receives is determined not by the real value of the goods he produces, but by his minimum needs and by the capitalist requirements for labor power in relation to the number of workers competing for jobs. It is important to understand that even in theory the payment of the worker is not determined by the value of his product. God always takes the simplest way. The true sign of intelligence is not knowledge but imagination. To punish me for my contempt for authority, fate made me an authority myself. The distinction between the past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. Everything is determined, the beginning as well as the end, by forces over which we have no control. It is determined for the insect as well as for the star. Human beings, vegetables, or cosmic dust, we all dance to a mysterious tune, intoned in the distance by an invisible piper. Time is an illusion. Matter tells space how to curve, space tells matter how to move. You can never solve a problem on the level on which it was created. The only thing that you absolutely have to know is the location of the library. Paraphrase: genius is not that you are smarter than everyone else. It is that you are ready to receive the inspiration. The grand aim of all science is to cover the greatest number of empirical facts by logical deduction from the smallest number of hypotheses or axioms. Creativity is the residue of time wasted. Pure mathematics is, in its way, the poetry of logical ideas. Try not to become a man of success. Rather, become a man of value. A human being is a part of the whole, called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. It is my view that the vegetarian manner of living, by its purely physical effect on the human temperament, would most beneficially influence the lot of mankind. As Vulcan's troublesome history reveals, no one gives up on a powerful or a beautiful, or perhaps simply a familiar and useful conception of the world without utter compulsion and a real alternative. When I examine myself and my methods of thought, I come to the conclusion that the gift of fantasy has meant more to me than any talent for abstract, positive thinking. Weakness of attitude becomes weakness of character. The religion of the future will be a cosmic religion. It should transcend a personal God and avoid dogmas and theology. Covering both the natural and the spiritual, it should be based on a religious sense arising from the experience of all things, natural and spiritual, as a meaningful unity. Buddhism answers this description. It is the supreme art of the teacher to awaken joy in creative expression and knowledge. Somebody who only reads newspapers and at best books of contemporary authors looks to me like an extremely nearsighted person who scorns eyeglasses. He is completely dependent on the prejudices and fashions of his times, since he never gets to see or hear anything else. Any man who reads too much and uses his own brain too little falls into lazy habits of thinking. Small is the number of them that see with their own eyes and feel with their own hearts. We shall require a substantially new manner of thinking if mankind is to survive. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Imagination is more important than knowledge. It is harder to crack prejudice than an atom. Nothing happens until something moves. Hope that justice will be done to those brave men who stood up for their convictions. Logic will get you from A to B. Imagination will take you everywhere. The measure of intelligence is the ability to change. Now he has departed from this strange world a little ahead of me. That means nothing. People like us, who believe in physics, know that the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. The only reason for time is so that everything doesn't happen at once. Student, Dr. Einstein, aren't these the same questions as last year's final exam? Dr. Einstein, yes, but this year the answers are different. Strange is our situation here upon Earth. Each of us comes for a short visit, not knowing why, yet sometimes seeming to a divine purpose. From the standpoint of daily life, however, there is one thing we do know: that we are here for the sake of other men, above all for those upon whose smile and well-being our own happiness depends, for the countless unknown souls with whose fate we are connected by a bond of sympathy. Many times a day, I realize how much my outer and inner life is built upon the labors of people, both living and dead, and how earnestly I must exert myself in order to give in return as much as I have received and am still receiving. Everyone should be respected as an individual, but no one idolized. You do not really understand something unless you can explain it to your grandmother. One of the strongest motives that lead men to art and science is escape from everyday life with its painful crudity and hopeless dreariness, from the fetters of one's own ever-shifting desires. A finely tempered nature longs to escape from the personal life into the world of objective perception and thought. It seems to me that the idea of a personal God is an anthropological concept which I cannot take seriously. I also cannot imagine some will or goal outside the human sphere. Science has been charged with undermining morality, but the charge is unjust. A man's ethical behavior should be based effectually on sympathy, education, and social ties and needs. No religious basis is necessary. Man would indeed be in a poor way if he had to be restrained by fear of punishment and hope of reward after death. The only source of knowledge is experience. It's not that I'm so smart, it's just that I stay with problems longer. The really valuable thing in the pageant of human life seems to me not the political state, but the creative, sentient individual, the personality. It alone creates the noble and the sublime, while the herd as such remains dull in thought and dull in feeling. Everything has changed, except the way we think. The aim must be the training of independently acting and thinking individuals who, however, see in the service of community their highest life problems. The true value of a human being can be found in the degree to which he has attained liberation from the self. Only those who attempt the absurd can achieve the impossible. Reality is merely an illusion, albeit a very persistent one. The world as we have created it is a process of our thinking. It cannot be changed without changing our thinking. We should take care not to make the intellect our God. It has, of course, powerful muscles, but no personality. I fear the day that technology will surpass our human interaction. The world will have a generation of idiots. Life is like riding a bicycle. To keep your balance, you must keep moving. The unleashed power of the atom has changed everything except our thinking. Thus, we are drifting toward catastrophe beyond conception. We shall require a substantially new manner of thinking if mankind is to survive. The man of science is a poor philosopher. Most people go on living their everyday life. Frightened, half indifferent, they behold the ghostly tragicomedy that has been performed on the international stage before the eyes and ears of the world. Nationalism is an infantile sickness. It is the measles of the human race. A human being is a part of the whole called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feeling as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature and its beauty. An empty stomach is not a good political advisor. Look deep into nature, and then you will understand everything better. A footnote in Scale, Geoffrey West. The full quotation from Einstein is worth repeating because it emphasizes a central dictum of science. Propositions arrived at by purely logical means are completely empty as regards reality. Because Galileo saw this, and particularly because he drummed this into the scientific world, he is the father of modern physics, indeed of modern science altogether. Taken from Einstein's On the Methods of Theoretical Physics, Essays on Modern Science, New York, Dover, 2009, 12-21. I never made one of my discoveries through the process of rational thinking. I never think of the future. It comes soon enough. Dancers are the athletes of God. Never attribute to malice that which can be adequately explained by stupidity, but don't rule out malice. But without deeper reflection, one knows from daily life that one exists for other people, first of all for those upon whose smiles and well-being our own happiness is wholly dependent, and then for the many, unknown to us, to whose destinies we are bound by the ties of sympathy. Joy in looking and comprehending is nature's most beautiful gift. We should take care not to make the intellect our God. It has, of course, powerful muscles, but no personality. I believe that Gandhi's views were the most enlightened of all the political men in our time. We should strive to do things in his spirit, not to use violence in fighting for our cause, but by non-participation in anything you believe is evil. Anger dwells only in the bosom of fools. There are only two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle. A successful man is he who receives a great deal from his fellow men, usually incomparably more than corresponds to his service to them. The value of a man, however, should be seen in what he gives and not in what he is able to receive. Teaching should be such that what is offered is perceived as a valuable gift and not as hard duty. Never regard study as duty, but as the enviable opportunity to learn to know the liberating influence of beauty in the realm of the spirit for your own personal joy, and to the profit of the community to which your later work belongs. Few people are capable of expressing with equanimity opinions which differ from the prejudices of their social environment. Most people are incapable of forming such opinion. I am thankful for all of those who said no to me. It's because of them I'm doing it myself. If I had known they were going to do this, I would have become a shoemaker. One thing I have learned in a long life, that all our science measured against reality is primitive and childlike, and yet it is the most precious thing we have. Intellectual growth should commence at birth and cease only at death. I am convinced there is only one way to eliminate these grave evils, namely through the establishment of a socialist economy, accompanied by an educational system which would be oriented towards social goals. God does not play dice. It is my conviction that killing under the cloak of war is nothing but an act of murder. It is, in fact, nothing short of a miracle that the modern methods of instruction have not yet entirely strangled the holy curiosity of inquiry. For this delicate little plant, aside from stimulation, stands mainly in need of freedom. Without this it goes to rack and ruin without fail. Whoever is careless with the truth in small matters cannot be trusted with important matters. Peace cannot be kept by force, it can only be achieved by understanding. If A is a success in life, then A equals X plus Y plus Z. Work is X, Y is play, and Z is keeping your mouth shut. The world is in greater peril from those who tolerate or encourage evil than from those who actually commit it. If I were to remain silent, I'd be guilty of complicity. The pursuit of truth and beauty is a sphere of activity in which we are permitted to remain children all our lives. How does it happen that a properly endowed natural scientist comes to concern himself with epistemology? Is there no more valuable work in his specialty? I hear many of my colleagues saying, and I sense it from many more, that they feel this way. I cannot share this sentiment. When I think about the ablest students whom I have encountered in my teaching, that is, those who distinguish themselves by their independence of judgment and not merely their quick-wittedness, I can affirm that they had a vigorous interest in epistemology. They happily began discussions about the goals and methods of science, and they showed unequivocally, through their tenacity in defending their views, that the subject seemed important to them. Indeed, one should not be surprised at this. I must be willing to give up what I am in order to become what I will be. The word God is for me nothing more than the expression and product of human weaknesses, the Bible a collection of honorable, but still primitive legends which are nevertheless pretty childish. No interpretation, no matter how subtle, can, for me, change this. These subtilized interpretations are highly manifold according to their nature, and have almost nothing to do with the original text. For me, the Jewish religion, like all other religions, is an incarnation of the most childish superstitions. There are no arbitrary constants. Nature is so constituted that it is possible logically to lay down such strongly determined laws that within these laws only rationally determined constants occur, not constants, therefore, whose numerical value could be changed without destroying the theory. Small is the number of people who see with their eyes and think with their minds. The only thing that interferes with my learning is my education. I gang my own gait and have never belonged to my country, my home, my friends, or even my immediate family with my whole heart. In the face of all these ties, I have never lost an obstinate sense of detachment, of the need for solitude, a feeling which increases with the years. The state was made for man, not man for state. Science without religion is lame. Religion without science is blind. Everything that is really great and inspiring is created by the individual who can labor in freedom. A 100 times every day I remind myself that my inner and outer life depend on the labors of other men living and dead, and that I must exert myself in order to give in the same measure as I have received. If you can't explain it to a 6-year-old, you don't understand it yourself. Common to all these types is the anthropomorphic character of their conception of God. In general, only individuals of exceptional endowments and exceptionally high-minded communities rise to any considerable extent above this level. But there is a third stage of religious experience which belongs to all of them, even though it is rarely found in a pure form. I shall call it cosmic religious feeling. It is very difficult to elucidate this feeling to anyone who is entirely without it, especially as there is no anthropomorphic conception of God corresponding to it. I want to know all God's thoughts, all the rest are just details. A man's ethical behavior should be based effectually on sympathy, education, and social ties and needs. No religious basis is necessary. Man would indeed be in a poor way if he had to be restrained by fear of punishment and hope of reward after death. We still do not know 1,000% of what nature has revealed to us. The environment is everything that isn't me. I have no special talent. I am only passionately curious.